Hello everybody and welcome to my match review of the Grade 3-4 2020 Numero Championship Grand Final. So this was an amazing match, a huge match between James and Sophie. Now the winner only ended up winning by a tiny fraction, only 4 points. So it was a real nail biter, it was close all throughout, and it'll probably go down in the history books as one of the all-time great numero games ever played at Delacombe Primary. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take you through the match. I've sped it up so we can see the takes very quickly, and we're going to stop and pause and have a look at some of the big takes and some of those amazing moves that changed the flow of the game. So with that being said, let's get stuck into it. So the game started with a 14 and a 5 down, and it was Sophie's move first. So Sophie starts by discarding a 12. James follows up discarding a 2, and then again a third discard from Sophie discarding a 6. So lots of discards early. But then here James goes in for the first build with a 5 and 2 equal with a 7. So 5 and 2 makes 7, but then now Sophie comes in with the first take of the game. So 6 take 5 equals 1. So winning those 10 points for those critical wild cards early. Now here, interestingly, even though James has made a build of 7, because he has a 7 in his hand, he chooses not to take it straight away. He might have a bigger plan in mind, so instead, he chooses to discard the 9. Sophie responds by making a straight match of 5 and 5, and then James, again still ignoring that 7, which we can see he has in his hands here, he decides to make a straight match of the 9. Okay, so you can see Sophie's got some wild cards there, thinking about how she can make them work, but decides to discard a 10. And then James, will he discard his 7 this time? No, he instead decides to make another build, this time 12 and 3, a build of 15. But here, Sophie quickly moves in and steals his build from him, who also has a 15 in her hand. So a great steal by Sophie. Now in responding to this, now you can see, it might be a bit tricky, but James has actually picked up another 7. So instead of taking the 7 that he built right at the start of the game, he's put the other 7 down so he can hopefully do a double take. But then as you can see, once again, Sophie had a 7 in her hand as well, so was able to do a double take and take all James's hard work and going for the steal there. So James now trying to respond after a couple of good takes being thwarted, puts down a 5, and Sophie makes a straight match of 14. James now with his first wildcard play, 5 times 3 equals 15, so he finally gets that 15 card out of his hand, and with a good take there. Sophie again discards a 14, and James discards a 1. Next, Sophie makes a straight match with a 1. And handy getting those ones because you get those extra couple of points. Here we go again, James with a wild card take. 14 divided by 2 equals 7. Another good solid take there. It's all going to come down to the wild cards. As you can see at the moment, the game is pretty evenly balanced. Sophie discarding a 13 and then James discarding a 10. Now James is using this same tactic. Instead of doing a take with the 10 straight away, he's perhaps got another 10 in his hand and he's looking to do the double take. So Sophie, not being able to disrupt his 10s, takes a 13. And there you go. This time James's plan is pulled off and he's able to do a double take matching 2 10s. So this is the first time the centre's been cleared, and then Sophie discards a 2. Now James, thinking about what he can do, decides to take the advantage of the 2 and adding a 9 on top, building to 11. And you can see there he's showing, yes, he does have an 11 in his hand. But now here, as you can see, this is where Sophie is running into a bit of trouble. Because as you can see, after she discarded the 2 the previous turn, she happened to pick up another wild card, and she already had 4 of them in her hand. Now, this means golden rule number 3, every time you play a wild card, you get another turn, so your turn's not over. So this means in this turn, Sophie's only option is to discard every single one of the wild cards in her hands. So now, as you can see, she's gone from holding 55 points in her hands, now drawing 5 regular number cards, which means now she only has 5 points in her hands. So at this point, Sophie knows she's in a bit of trouble and is really hoping that James isn't able to take advantage of those wild cards that have just been put down into the centre. But unfortunately for Sophie, James is a ferocious opponent and he knows exactly how to take advantage of this situation. So watch the build that James does next. Okay, so here James has put a divide by 5 onto the 11. Now 11 divided by 5 is actually 2 and 2/10. But you might be thinking, well, how does that work? But James is not finished yet because he also has a multiply by 5, a times 5. Now, that brings a 2 and 2/10 straight back up to the 11 because James knows that divide by 5 and times by 5 are opposites, so they can cancel each other out. But he's not finished yet, so now that the number's back to 11, now he's gone 11 divided by 4, which is 2 3/4 or 2 7/500. But he's got a times by 4 in the middle as well, so once again he brings the number back up to 11. So first made it 4 times smaller and then restored it by making it 4 times bigger again. And then finally, using his 11, he finishes the take for a massive 7 card take with 4 wild cards. So 47 points in that one take alone. And so now, at this point, Sophie knows that if she's got any chance of hanging in this match, she needs to maximise and take as many as the wild cards left as she can. So here she goes in for a move, and she's put, as you can see there, she's made a little mistake because she's put 2 times 4. Now we know 2 times 4 equals 8, but she's accidentally put down the 12. That was just a bit of a mistake because she had thought of it. She did know the answer, she just put the wrong card down, so you can see and she's got an 8 in her hand there. So we fixed that up and she took the build with the 8 and then leaving James to respond with the divided by 3. So James goes down here and puts 9 divided by 3 is 3 to make a build of 3 because as you can see there, he's got that 3 in his hands. Now again, with a bit of luck, Sophie has got the second wild card by also stealing that build with a 3. James now only has one option to discard. He discards a 1. Sophie quickly responds by putting a 10 on the 1 to build to 11. But again, James comes in to steal the build with 11 take 3 equals 8. So another good build steal from James there. Clearing the centre once again. Sophie responds by discarding an 8 and James discards a 15. And Sophie takes a straight 8 there. And obviously those 15 cards with the extra 2 points can make a difference. So you really want to try and get those whenever you can. And as you can see, Sophie does. 15 take 2 is 13. Now after some thinking here, James discards a 3 and Sophie takes a straight match with a 6. Now James goes in for another build. Now this is the start of another good clever move by James. So 12 and 3 is 15. And you can see he's got that 15 card in his hand for those extra points. Sophie can't take the 12, so has to discard an 11. But then again, look, James doesn't take the 15 straight away. Once again, he's got a bigger plan in mind. So he discards a 12. Sophie takes the 11, she discarded the turn before. And now again, James has done the same combination, put a 12 and 3 together to make a 15. So now he's hoping that Sophie doesn't take this away from him because this will be a 5 card take. So Sophie's now at this point really thinking through, how can I stop James getting these 2 15s? But unfortunately, after lots of thinking, she realizes she can't really do anything. So then she's forced to discard a 6. So then, as you can see there, James cleans up by taking both 15s for a great 5 card take. Could be the difference between winning this match or not winning this match. Sophie then responds by doing a build of 6 and 8 to make 14. And then James discards a 1. Sophie then takes her 14. And now James doesn't seem to be able to do anything with the 1 at this point, so is going to have to discard as well. And so he puts down a 4. Next we have Sophie, who again steals James 4 with a straight match, just slowly chipping away, getting those extra points. James discards another 4, hoping that Sophie definitely doesn't have another one in her hand. And now you can see we're getting down to the end game. There's no cards left in the pile, so it's going to be really important who can do the last take. Now, James matches the straight 2, so currently James is in control of the last take. Now, if Sophie wants to win the cards in the centre, she must find one way to do one last take here. And she does. 4 and 7 is 11. Now James, you can see there, he's only got a wild card left, so his only options is to do a discard. Sophie finally cleans up with the last take of 11, and then wins the cards in the centre. But as you can see, she's got 1 card left in her hand, which means she gets 1 extra card subtracted from her total. So now it comes down to the points. So let's hear and see if we can hear the points being counted up. This is right towards the end. We're starting with Sophie's points.
I don't know why my body is saying 102. 104.
So you can see there, Sophie on 104 points. Will James be able to top this?
103. 108.
So there you go, 108 points, James wins. So as you can see, an absolute fabulous match between Sophie and James did just get across the line. And if we think about what are the moves that did it, well, it was that massive 47 point take that he did in the middle with those times 5 divided by 5 times by 4 divided by 4, and also his few double takes that he built. If he didn't commit to making those double takes where he was playing the patient game, Sophie just might have pinched this match from him. Alright, thanks everyone. Hopefully after watching this, you might have even picked up a few pointers of how you can improve your Numero game, getting ready in preparation for the 2021 competition, which is going to take off next year. Alright, thanks everyone.